Hey, everybody. Just want to jump on here real quick and say we had a great time at Thomas House this last weekend. Thomas House is kind of my haunted home away from home. Always have a good time there. And a big thank you for Bob and Brittany from Tales from the Dark for coming and hanging out. It was great to finally meet them in person and get to hang out with them. And if you haven't yet, go check out Tales from the Dark. If you love the show here, you'll love their show. They get into conspiracy theories and all kinds of awesome topics. And I'm a fan. I listen. Go check out Tales from the Dark anywhere that you listen to podcasts, of course. But also wanted to just say thank you for listening, and I really appreciate it. And look for more events we have coming up later on in the year. We'll be announcing some more dates here soon. There's still a few tickets left for Two Rivers Mansion in July, so go and snatch those up before they're gone. There's only a couple tickets left. And this is only the second public investigation they have ever allowed there. So it's kind of a special thing. But yeah, hope to see you out soon at a convention or festival, or to see you in October at our Tennessee Haunts and Legends Expo. But on today's episode, this is part one of a two-part episode that recorded with Nicole Strickland. We are talking about the afterlife and telling stories, signs that we've gotten from the beyond, from loved ones who have passed away. So enjoy this episode. Check out part two next week. And thank you for listening. Y'all have a good day. Join us as we dive into the history, hauntings, and high strange of the world to try to better understand the paranormal. I will be your guide. I am paranormal researcher and investigator Eric Freeman Sims. Welcome to the Unseen Paranormal Podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Unseen Paranormal Podcast. Today, we welcome author, investigator, researcher, and podcast host, Nicole Strickland. Nicole is the founder and director of San Diego Paranormal Research Society, consultant for the American Spectral Association, and the California coordinator to the Ghost Research Society. She is the co-host of the internet radio show Haunted Voices and host of her own show, Afterlife Chronicles. She has authored several books, including Haunted Queen of the Seas, Spirit of Queen Mary, San Diego's Most Haunted, and many more. Today, we're going to discuss her latest self-published title, The Afterlife Chronicles, exploring the connection between life, death, and beyond. You can find more information on Nicole Strickland at author.NicoleStrickland.com, and her books are available on Amazon, Kindle, our website, and wherever fine books are sold. You can find all the links in the show notes for this episode as usual. Hey, Nicole, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello, Eric. Nice to talk with you. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much for coming on. Like we were talking about before we started recording here, I've been looking for somebody to deep dive into the afterlife and near-death experiences and things. And when I saw your book, I was like, yes, got to have her on. And you and Todd had me on Haunted Voices back earlier this year.
Yes.
So that was fun. And so we were kind of familiar with each other. So I was glad that you said yes whenever I messaged you.
Totally. Yeah. We look forward to having you back on soon, too. That was a great episode. Geez, how many months ago was that? Like about 6, maybe?
I think it was.
I don't know.
Was it February?
It might have been. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. So can't wait to have you back on. That was a great discussion.
It's crazy to do radio like that because the commercials, it goes by so fast.
I know. Man. Oh, I know it. Right. Oh, my gosh.
So your new book, The Afterlife Chronicles, exploring the connection between life, death, and beyond, just came out, and it's your first self-titled title, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. That's it in a nutshell. Yeah, so what was I going to say? You know, it's interesting because I am a traditionally published author of other books, and I've been toying around, starting self-publishing for a couple of years now. And I finally just did it. And it was interesting because this book was originally supposed to be published by Schiffer, and that's who published San Diego's Most Haunted. And so their editor retired, I guess, for the paranormal titles. And so they offered me, you can either wait until we get a new editor or you can go on your own. And what's funny is I was originally going to self-publish this book, but then I just got lazy. But I guess it's meant to be. So I see, self-publishing, you can really do it an easy way, or you can do it like what publishers do and get your own imprint, buy your own ISBNs and all of that. Yeah. So I published it like a publisher would, and I'm telling you, it is a learning curve to just get so much information. I'm one of these people like, well, let's do it right or not, at all.
Right.
And so I wrote the book back in like 2019. And what's interesting is that it really took less than a year to write, but it basically is a culmination of my entire lifespan thus far, which is like 43 years. So it's just all those experiences and insights and viewpoints that you get growing up, and all of that all went into the book, and then what I've learned in the paranormal from people and research and whatnot. So it really was a very huge labor of love to write. And there are about 18 or 19 contributors, some very good friends of mine, colleagues in the field, that shared profound stories that support the topics in the book. And so I think that makes it really interesting. So
yeah, I really like that when I was reading the book, to have the real world experiences that back up what you're talking about in that chapter.
Right.
So you were talking about, all your years of experience from when you were younger. So what kind of happened to you to get you into the paranormal to begin with?
Oh my goodness. I know this may sound cheesy and wonky, but I tell people that I think I was born to be in this field just because I had such an innate curiosity and interest in it since I was a child. And as far back as I can remember, if I had experiences when I was 1, 2, 3, I don't really remember, but my very first experience that I had was about 4.5. And so I was born in Huntington Beach, California, and then moved to Las Vegas when I was about 1.5 years old. Just my mom, dad, and I. And we had a pool in the backyard. It was summertime, and it was about dusk, about 8 p.m., 8:30. And we got out of the pool, we were drying off. And then all of a sudden, here I am at the age of 4.5 or 5. I saw this not black, but like this dark gray mist type, whatever. And that it started to morph into like a humanoid shape. And I remember like looking at it. I think my parents were absolutely oblivious to it. And then I remember asking my mom and dad, I was like, look, Mom, Dad, did you see that draft? I mean, I don't even know why I would use that word at my young age to describe what I saw, but I remember that. And then also in that home, there was, maybe at the time I didn't know, but I now as an adult, I think it probably was an entity from the 1800s, gold rush days that I would see in the home and communicate with. And I'm sure my parents thought I was just, imaginary friends talking to myself because I was at that age. So those are the two experiences when I was back really young as a child. But I've always been, and we all are actually, we're all intuitive. We all have the capacity for psychic senses and whatnot. But I've always had that since I was young. And then just growing up, middle school, high school, I would read pretty much anything I could on the paranormal. But fast forward to my undergraduate college years at the University of Arizona, my maternal grandmother, Helen Lopinto, so my mom's mom, called me on October 24th, and she wanted to ask if I was okay. And at the time I was like, what? Why is she asking me this? She knows I'm okay. But I talked with her, had a great conversation for about 15, 20 minutes, and then got off the phone. And then the next following day, my mom called me, and I could tell by the tone of her voice that something was wrong. And I said, what's wrong? And she said, sweetie, I love you so much, but grandma passed away in the morning. So I was devastated, very close to my grandma, came back out to San Diego to be with family. And then when it was time for me to go back out to Tucson, Arizona, where the U of A is based, I started having these odd experiences in my apartment that I didn't have before. Now, initially, I just chalked it up to my neighbors, vibration, whatever. I was in an upstairs apartment. Of course, there's going to be noises, so I didn't think much of it. But and it was basically, it started out with the doorknobs rattling by themselves. And funny, my grandmother, when she was twist the doorknobs to make sure that they were locked. So again, I didn't think much of it. A couple of nights later, this was all in about like a 5 to 6 day span. And then a couple of days later, I was in my bedroom on my laptop, and I didn't see anything, but I felt this hand touch my face. But it felt like it came from someone that I knew and loved very dearly. A couple of nights later, all those two experiences culminated into me seeing my grandmother's full-bodied apparition, full-bodied. She looked about 10 years younger. She had a smile on her face. She didn't say anything. She was wearing one of her favorite house dresses, and then it looked as though there was a spotlight shining against her back, and it gave her this whitish halo around her body. And at the time, I thought, well, I'm projecting this. This is some sort of bereavement hallucination, something like this. So I didn't know. But as I've pondered this experience, I do think it was a legit visitation. I asked other family members if they had any experiences. No one else did. So long story short, I credit my grandmother for really getting me on this path and into active investigation and research of the paranormal. I think she probably knew before I did that this was a field that I would really enjoy and have a passion for. And so I really credit her for that. She's the one that really got me on the path in this field. And I've met amazing people like yourself that really are devoted to studying and researching the unknown. So it's been a journey.
It's crazy. There's so many parallels between the things that I've experienced since I was a kid and what you've experienced.
Right.
My first interaction that I remember was when I was 8 or 9 years old, and I saw a full body apparition.
Wow.
I sat straight up in the bed, and it was in my doorway. And as far as I know, I'd never experienced anything like that before, but I've been an empath my entire life too. So
right.
It's that whole drawing things in, lighthouse in the dark, they notice you because they know you can notice them.
Exactly.
Yeah. My mom was a really strong empath as well. And so she kind of fostered that in me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've had experiences off and on, more on than off, my whole life. So that's, a lot of correlation there. And I understand exactly what you're saying. Because I was the weird kid who at the book fairs at school would be looking for the paranormal books, the books
me too. Yeah,
ghosts and aliens, and and my friends are all like, "What's wrong with you? You're weird." Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm a nerd at heart, so no.
Yeah.
I say that.
Too.
Yeah. No, nerds are great. I mean, I'm not saying that we're nerds, but it's of course. I was the same way. Just any book I could get my hands on about it, I would just pick it up and read it. And so.
Yeah, I was like bootlegging episodes of what was that British show with the psychic that got possessed every episode, Derek Okora. Oh man, Most Haunted.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, thank you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It wasn't airing over here in the United States, and that's the only ghost show that I could find that was on. And I was bootlegging it off LimeWire or something, like downloading, an episode over 2 or 3 days because of dial-up internet,
Oh, so. Remember that good old dial-up internet? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how I was getting kind of the TV portion and kind of how I first saw the investigations of anybody doing investigations. And, of course, that was long before they had ghost hunters on and things over here. But, yeah, so... Yeah, both of us nerding out over their paranormal when we were kids.
Totally. Yeah. Another one I love too, which had some paranormal episodes, is Unsolved Mysteries. That was one that I used to always watch when I was younger. So.
And everybody can read your story in the book about your grandmother and stuff. That's awesome to have that visitation, that validation that she's okay. I love that about the spirit world.
I absolutely do too. And I think that in this field, there's a lot of exploitation of it.
Yes.
And it really needs to be given the respect that it deserves. And this goes for other entities too, interdimensional beings, whether it's Dogman, Bigfoot. They may or may not be interdimensional, but, just cryptids in general, whatever. I mean, just respect them,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm very much, when I investigate that, I'm very much come from a place of respect and, and, we're just here to chat with you and learn, and that's what we're all about. Yeah,
that's what we do too. Yep.
But just to go in with an open mind and to learn and communicate. And I found that they don't let you know too much. They kind of let us. I don't think we're allowed to know a whole lot about the afterlife. I think bits and pieces maybe.
That's a good point you brought up. I agree. I feel like we're not supposed to know everything about it until we're there ourselves, but we can see glimpses of it. And those glimpses are given to us to show us what awaits for us.
Right.
And another thing that if I had to summarize my new book in 1 or 2 sentences, or the points I want to make, is one, that the connections and bonds and love that we have with our departed loved ones and animals, that remains eternally. Yes, physically they're not going to be here anymore, but their soul, their essence their energy, their vibrance, that's always going to be connected with us. And then two, there seems to be, and this is an opinion of mine, but there seems to be something out there in the cosmos that is bridging and bringing together both the living worlds and afterlife, and even other dimensions, even together more, so we can help each other, learn from each other, and things of that nature. So it's very intriguing. I have a passion for studying it for sure.
Yeah, it seems like it just seems like when you do EVP sessions and you got communication going, sometimes when you ask about the afterlife and the spirit world, they kind of shut you down. They'll just stop talking to you. I've just noticed that throughout the years of investigating.
That's an interesting observation, and I would agree with you on that they're not giving us everything.
Yeah, just enough to make you know that it exists.
Yes, and then I think synchronicity is very much used by those in the hereafter to communicate with us. And it's like, it's up to us to be open to that and pay attention to it, because I think I would say that synchronicity and dream visitations are two gateways to really allow the living world to connect more with the afterlife. So
yeah, I've had quite a few of those experiences myself. I've so many synchronicities, I've stopped believing in coincidence when it comes to a lot of things.
Exactly.
One of the biggest ones in my life, and I've talked about this a little bit before. It's in my friend Trader Hill's book, my story. But we had a dog that we rescued, and his whole backstory is in there too. Now I'll just give the Cliff Notes version of the story. But we rescued him, and we had him for almost 10 years. And the shelter was going to put him down when they rescued him from the puppy mill, and we rescued him so they wouldn't. But so we ended up having him for 10 years. They said he wouldn't live a year. He had heartworms really bad. He lived for 10 years. And he got to where he couldn't use the bathroom, so I took him to the vet, and he had a softball size prostate tumor. And there wasn't really much.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was too far gone. There wasn't much we could do. And so we had to put him down. And so,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, this is like, I put so much work into this dog. Like, he's my best friend, and like, I had spent so much time behaviorally retraining him because he's part of a puppy mill, so he's just used for breeding and hardly any human interaction. And so you couldn't even really pet him when we first got him because he would snap at you. And so he didn't. Yeah, he didn't know loving or anything like this. Well, I got this dog to be the perfect dog. Like I worked with him and got him out of his food aggression and all these other habits. And so I had, I think the dog, in the end, I think he taught me more than I ever taught him. But he just became this amazing dog. And we had him for, like I said, almost 10 years. We had to put him down. And me and my husband were both very upset after, we left the vet. And we decided to go shopping, take your mind off. So we went to this random store. We hadn't planned this. Went to this random store, and we're looking at dog stuff because we have 8 dogs. So we had other dogs that we still have to take care of and, love on and all that stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so,
wow, 8 dogs.
Yeah, they're all rescues. So
awesome.
But we thought our dogs are going to be sad too. So let's find them maybe new dog beds, maybe some treats and dog toys, And so we're looking in this dog section, and all of a sudden over the intercom system in the store, they say, "Chase, can you come to the front register?" Well,
oh my gosh,
my dog's name was Chase.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I know. Oh my.
Yeah. And that was about 30 or 45 minutes after we had put him down. And we both just looked at each other and like, oh, he's okay.
See, that's how it works. I'm convinced that's how the afterlife and spirit worlds work. That's how they give us our messages. And I know exactly how you feel. Right then and there that they're okay. And it really helps with the grief.
It did. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
I still see him around my house. All of my other dogs, they have their own pen outside, a huge pen they run around in when it's nice out. And I will see him. I have an island in my kitchen, and he's the only solid white dog. I don't have any solid white dogs now. And he was a long-haired Jack Russell. And so little dog.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a little dog. White with some black speckles on him. But I'll see his little white butt, and he had a crop tail. So I'll see his little white butt go around the corner. But when I go around the corner, he's not there. So,
Oh, I love it. That's so awesome.
yeah, he shows up all the time.
Yeah. Oh man.
Or I'll hear what sounds like dog nails on the kitchen floor, and all my dogs will be outside or asleep. There's none of them roaming around, So
Yeah, same thing with my cats that have, joined the afterlife. That's a common. I see them, I hear them meow, but I'll hear their little nails in the kitchen. I'm like, all right, hello guys.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and we had another dog that he was only a year and a half old, and he's still, for all intents and purposes, a puppy, and he got a really rare form of stomach cancer, and we had to put him down. And I still see him. His name was Hank, and I still see him every once in a while. I'll catch him out of the corner of my eye, roaming around my house. But yeah, they come back and visit. They're not here. I don't think they're here all the time, but they come visit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had the same experiences with my cats, and it's almost like an everyday thing. I'm not looking for it, but I'll hear their meow sometimes. I'll see them, run up the stairs or whatnot. It's comforting, and I think they do come and visit. And just quick story here too regarding one of my cats, Kaylee. I adopted Max and Kaylee litter mates when they were about 3 months old after the 2003 San Diego wildfires. And now I've had cats all my life, but these two cats, Max and Kaylee, I do feel that the three of us belong to the same soul group, because just there was something deeper about our bond together. It's like, it's hard to put in words. So Max passed away in 2016, and I had he developed cardiomyopathy, and so they put him on beta blockers, and so he was on beta blockers for a few nights, and then one night he just started wailing and was like hyperventilating. So we rushed him to the veterinary hospital, and so the vet there said, okay, it could be a reaction to the beta blockers, or it could be, tragically, it could be heart failure. So they had us wait out in the waiting room, and then about 45 minutes later, down the hall, I saw the veterinarian come out, and I could tell by the look on his face that it was the latter, and that it was something due to the heart or heart failure. And so, interestingly, the song that started playing on the above speakers was the song "Endless Love." And so that I took that as like, okay, so these are the types of synchronicities. And when Kaylee passed, and she passed in December 19th of 2021. Now, she lived to 18 and a half years old. So her and I had about 6 years after Max passed. She had diabetes. She had hyperthyroidism, and then she developed a heart issue. She even had a nodule on her lung that they thought was cancer, but she kept going. She looked like she was a kitten practically. But then she developed heart failure just like her brother in December, and she was in the hospital for a few nights, and then they let her come home. And then I told Kaylee, I said, Kaylee, when it's your time, let me know. And on December 19th, I could tell she came to me on my bed. I could tell she was telling me, Mom, it's time, basically. And so we took her over there, and one of her favorite veterinarians was there. And it was the most peaceful transition I've ever seen in an animal. I mean, she didn't wail, she didn't do anything like that. It was so peaceful. And then the second after she died, we started having these synchronicities, seeing sunlight just shining through the door at the end of the hall. We went to In-N-Out to get a hamburger, and then on the way home, I just happened to glance at this billboard, and it had someone's index finger pointing up, touching a bright orb of light. The following day, I saw two birds like dancing in the sky together in unison. And I was like, okay, I took that as a sign that Max and Kaylee are together. But then came these dream visitations. And I've had about 14 of them since Kaylee passed. And these aren't just like regular dreams. These are where it's almost like I'm slightly astrally projecting out to meet her. It's always the same environment. It's my room in the dark. I'm always in the same position I am when I went to sleep. And then she comes to me, I'm able to see her, I'm able to feel her, I'm able to hear her. And it's not just a dream, it's a dream, it's a more in-depth dream visitation. And it's like the feeling I get when I wake up is just utter peace. And I've never had this with anyone else, whether it's a human or animal. So, that story's in the book as well. So it's
That's
great.
awesome.
It's great. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've had, it's crazy that you say it's the same every time.
Every time. Mhm.
Yeah, it feels more than a dream because I've had that happen with many times after my mom passed away.
Okay.
I had her come to me in a more than a dream. Like you're saying, it feels like you're astral projecting, like you're really there.
Exactly.
And it's like this park environment. It's sunny. The trees are shading this picnic table, and my mom is sitting on one side, and I walk up and sit on the other. And the first time that I had this dream after she passed, me and her had a conversation. She looked great. She was dressed nice, and it was her telling me that she was good. She was okay. And so then when my one aunt passed away, I had the same dream with my mom, sitting in the same place, same environment, but my aunt come walking around the tree and met with me and my mom.
That is beautiful. Oh my God.
Yeah, and looked, healthy and good and happy. And then my other aunt passed away, and the same thing happened again. She come
Oh,
around the tree with me and my mom, and it was the same setting. It was different conversations.
this is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And that was, and only had it those 3 individual times when after those 3 people passed, but it's the same environment.
Same environment, same settings. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I kind of go, the last time I had it with my mom, with my last aunt, my mom's sitting there, and I walk up to the table and sit down, and we're talking, and I knew lucidly, I knew, oh, okay, this is telling me my Aunt Pam is okay.
See,
and then, she kind of comes around the tree and talks, and it looks vibrant, and, just looks great and happy. And
I know that because you're in that state, but you know what they're trying to tell you. And I know exactly what you're talking about. I've experienced that as well. I experienced that. And even like continuing on with the cats, Max and Kaylee had a brother that was very sick. So I would have adopted him too. And it would have been the 3 of them, but I don't know where he went and who he was staying with. So it was just Kaylee and Max available for adoption. But after Kaylee passed, there was another type of dream. And in it, she was telling me, I just knew she was telling me by showing me these images, and there were 3 kittens all lined up in a row, and they were staring upward. And in the dream, I understood it as Kaylee saying, look, our brother is with us now too. All 3 of us are together. And she even, in that same dream, showed me another kitten. But in the dream, I understood it as, this is how I will look when I reincarnate someday. It's bizarre to explain it, but it's like in that state, that's what you understand, and that's what you receive.
Yeah. I told my aunt about the dream. So I was adopted by my grandparents. So when I say my mother, it's my grandmother. And so my aunt my mom died in 2009. My one aunt has had a lot of problems dealing, and going through, all the different emotions and things. And I was telling her about the dream one day. Telling her, I just want you to know that mom's okay. Like, she came to me in a dream, and like it was more than a dream, and she believed in everything. And she asked me one time, she's like, why has she not ever come to me? And I told her, I said, well, I think it's because you're not ready. I think it would traumatize you more than it would help you.
Right.
Because for me, it was very healing and comforting. Not that I don't miss my mom still, but it was very comforting and helped me get through the grieving process. But I think for my aunt, I don't think it would help. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so I think that's why she hasn't come to her in a dream and said, once my aunt gets to that place to where she's somewhat okay with it, I think my mom will probably reach out.
Absolutely. I think they know the right time on when to come. And, my mom was very close to Kaylee and Max too. And she's asked me many times, she's like, Nicole, I really wish I could have the same experience with Kaylee that you do. And I said, well, ask for it. I don't know. Maybe she's not. Maybe Kaylee knows that, she's waiting for the perfect time. I don't know. But wow, that's a beautiful story that you shared. That's awesome.
I've had other experiences with my mother too, in my house, because I inherited my parents' house. So we've done a bunch of remodeling, which they would love.
Of course.
For one, they would absolutely love it. But well, a lot of times, especially as investigators, as well as I do, you start remodeling like a house. Sometimes that brings out the spirits because they don't like what the fuck you're doing. So
I know. But, they're like, stop this now. No, it has to be this way. Yeah, I get it. Yep.
Right. My parents were not set in their ways like that. Like they would love what we've done in the house, but every once in a while I'll be walking through my kitchen And my mom weared a very specific perfume called Jovan Musk. And I don't even know if you can still buy it, but that's what she always wore. And
I've heard of it.
I will get a whiff of it
Yeah.
out of nowhere, and it will be there for a few seconds and it's gone. And yeah, I just take it that's her popping in saying, "Hey,
There you go." Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Same thing happened with my dad's mom when he died. Same thing. It was like a month after she passed, and we were at our timeshare up in Escondido, and she wore, oh gosh, I forgot. I think it was Estee Lauder, one of those very distinct aroma, distinct scent. And I smelled it, and I was like, okay, all right, hello, Grandma. So.
Yeah, I have so many stories.
I know.
Validation and things.
Yeah. The story you shared about your dream visitation and having that with all three of them, that's a beautiful, beautiful account.
Yeah, my mom, I was their 10th kid to raise. So my mom had 6 of her own. My grandfather and my dad had 3, and then I was the only kid that they technically had together because they adopted me. When my father passed away when I was 14, and my mom saw him walk one night. We were sitting watching TV in our living room. We have a big picture window in the living room, and she saw him and my uncle who had passed away. My aunt's husband had passed away, and him and my dad were really good friends. And she saw them both walk past the window.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, and she took it as that's them telling me that they're together in the afterlife and that they're happy,
Absolutely. And it's like you have that when that happens, there's that all-knowing sense of they're okay. It's like you can't dispute it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's hard to put in words, but.
So let's talk about the difference between. We'll get back into stories, I'm sure. At some point
I can talk all day. Oh man, I'm telling you, I have my Starbucks right here, and well, it's empty now, sadly, but
Yeah, but you're all hyped up now.
I am. Yep, on a nice vanilla latte. Yes. Okay.
So I've always thought of this distinction as well between what a ghost and what a spirit is.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to explain that a little bit, I'm on the same page as you are, but if you want to explain that for listeners a little bit, the difference between the two.
Yeah, and this is how I would put it, and it's very easy to use them interchangeably just because it's convenient. I've done it, and then when I do, I'm like, oops, I shouldn't have done that. But we all do. I don't know about all of us, but many of us will use them interchangeably. But I do believe there is a difference. So a ghost or an earthbound, if you will, obviously there's similarities and differences. So let's start with a ghost. Earthbound ghost, same thing. Someone passes on, but yet they haven't evolved into the light to the upper ranks of the afterlife. They haven't fully evolved to spirit. They're still stuck here, attached here, either by choice, either by not. And there's various reasons. Maybe they are attached to a location. Maybe there's an antique that they want to remain with. Maybe they want to remain with their living relatives. Perhaps it's they're sensing the intense grief from their surviving loved ones, and that's what's calling them here to remain. Whatever the case, it could be unfinished business, whatever it is. It's sometimes by choice or by not, and they're kind of stuck on this earthly plane. Now, a spirit also is someone who has passed on, but has evolved from that, is able to move on to the higher ranks of spirithood, has resolved whatever issues. They're not bound to this plane like an earthbound is, and they can come with free will and come and visit us. That's my distinction between the two, how I would put it.
Yeah, and ghosts can also be the residual hauntings in a place where you have that energy imprinted on the environment, and so it's the same thing.
Right.
The same thing's going to play over and over, whether we're there in the environment or not, whenever the conditions are right. The whole stone tape theory and all that.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, I'm with you. I use the two interchangeably sometimes, but when I get down to it, I think the same thing. I think ghosts are more your earthbound things, and then spirits, like you have, different entities that were never living per se that go to spirits, like your elemental spirits and things like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, more I guess I was thinking of those spirits in general as more ethereal beings, because they can travel around and pop in and out of our plane of existence, to whereas ghosts, like you're saying, are they're not stuck here, but they're bound here for whatever reason.
Right. Yeah, that's also a really good way of putting it. And you have angelic types of beings, non-human, angelic, discarnate beings that, are considered spirits. But for us human energies that pass on and are not considered earthbound, they've moved on to a higher state of being, right? So when you think about the afterlife, it's theorized that, the soul survives death and it moves on, and it sometimes will reincarnate, it'll go into a next life, and that continues on. But it's just the soul's progression, soul maturity, and going up, because it's thought that there's different levels to the spirit world and different ranks. So, and that's something that fascinates me. But again, you know what? I haven't been there yet. Although I will say, old souls, people that are old souls, I feel like, and with me, I've often been told that, like, Nicole, you're such an old soul. I don't feel like this is my first rodeo. It's like I don't know about you, but it's almost like there's a familiarity with the afterlife, like as if you've been there before in a past life and you remember that. That's kind of how I feel. So it's like I say, like, this isn't my first rodeo.
Yeah, I've been told the same thing about being an old soul and just knowing things I shouldn't, even at a really young age.
Yeah. Yes.
And I always wanted to, when I was growing up, I'd rather hang out with the adults most of the time if there's like a group of adults.
I am the same way as a kid. I loved the adults.
Yeah. I mean, I played with other kids my age and had friends and things, but yeah, if there was a group of adults around, I just wanted to just stand there and listen to them, not even be part of the conversation, but just learn and soak in everything I could from them.
I can relate.
Getting back to the ghosts and spirits thing, I had Lynn Monet on the show. She's an author and she doesn't call herself a medium. She calls herself a really strong empath, but she communicates with spirits. And one of the stories that she told me was that she works as a hospice nurse.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, she found the spirit room in the hospital that she wasn't familiar with. And she was trying to get him to, like, move on. Like, you shouldn't be stuck here in this hospital. Like, spending your eternity in the hospital. You need to move on. Well, he didn't want him to go into the light because he had a mistress and was cheating on his wife. Well, his mistress and his wife had since passed away, and he was afraid they'd both be waiting for him on the other side of the light.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
To, like, beat him up or whatever,
Oh my
And
goodness.
so no matter what she said to him, she's like, no, over there, like, it's all love and light and, like, you'll be fine. But he didn't believe her. He's like, well, I'll let him hash it out for a little while longer before I move on. So
there you go. That's oh my God. I love hearing this stuff. And I apologize. My 22-year-old cat here is meowing. So so I'm sorry if that, if you guys can hear that. So
yeah, it's all good. Like I said, I have 8 dogs.
So yeah, when she goes, she won't be quiet. So I hope this isn't doing the rest of the show with the cat meowing in the back.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like I've been here before. Definitely. I don't remember any past lives or anything. One of the things I think that for me is left over from a past life is I'm not a scared person. I don't have really many phobias. Mm-hmm. I have a issue with heights. I wouldn't say it's a phobia because I really don't like have a panic attack or anything. The one thing that I absolutely hate is bridges over water. And I think that may be left over from a past life. Maybe that's how I died in a previous life.
That could be.
Yeah, and if I can see, like, I've been to the Florida Keys where they have a big, long, 17-mile-long bridge, and you can actually see the bottom of the ocean right through there because it's really shallow. I had no problem with that bridge, but it's bridges over, like, muddy water, like rivers and things where you can't see the bottom.
Oh, see, that very well could be like a past life situation.
Yeah.
And same with, like, it's weird with fires. See, I have that with fires, and what's interesting is my maternal Helen, who I was talking about at the beginning of the show. My grandmother, she claimed, that she was a Romani gypsy and all of that. And so, they were burned at the stake. So I don't know if there's a connection there, but fire is my thing. So no.
Yeah. The reincarnation thing fascinates me to no end. I still can't think of his name, but there's a psychologist who has done extensive research all over the world with kids on past lives. And man, if you listen to him on a podcast or read his book, it's hard not to believe in past lives.
Oh, I know.
Some people are reincarnated because just some of the stuff that these people know from this other life they lived and it's verifiable facts. It's just insane.
Right. And stories like this, when you hear these accounts from people, and they're numerous, and it's from people and cultures from all over the world. Like, how can you dispute that when there's so many?
Well, and that's like also talking about the afterlife in general. I mean, there's so many cultures. Every culture all over the world has stories and believes in an afterlife. And they all slightly differ, but it's crazy to me the similarities between the different cultures, even back in like Native American cultures, who never mingled but have the same beliefs.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like even going back thousands of years, like, even like writers like Dante Alighieri, if I'm pronouncing it right, and his the Divine Comedy, it's like even in writings like Homer's Odyssey, I mean, there's discussion of this afterlife, and it's, there's always been this intrigue in it since the dawning of man. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not religious anyway, but not to shit on Christianity. But I think Christianity's kind of hijacked the afterlife, the concept of afterlife, to where Buddhists and all the other religions have afterlives as well. They have their own versions, but they're very similar. Maybe it's just because I live in the Bible Belt, and so it's the fight between the Church of Christ and the First Baptist is ridiculous. But I think I like to, I guess what I'm getting at is I like to take religion out of the afterlife discussion, because it can give you rose-colored glasses.
Yep.
Yeah, and you will see it through the lens of your religion instead of looking at the similarities across all religions and all cultures. And it's funny because you have these different, not to get on religion per se, but you have a lot of religions that fight over the same thing. They're talking about the same exact thing, but they fight over it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very well said. And here I am. I come from an Italian family. I was baptized Catholic. I went to Catholic school. I'm not religious at all. I'm more spiritual, but I agree with everything you said. It's like you can't, people will see the afterlife through the lens of whatever religion, and I'm not one of these that necessarily believes in heaven and hell and all of that. It's just, I don't know. In the Bible, in my opinion, and some people may get upset at this, and it's not my intent to upset anyone, but it's a lot of it is metaphor. So, and that can be taken in different ways.
Yeah, but I think in this conversation, we have to talk about religion in some way, shape, or form, because it does factor into people's beliefs so much.
It does.
I think in the paranormal in general, you have to somewhat consider people's religious beliefs and things too. I'm agnostic, and so people ask me, well, what does agnostic mean? It means I believe in something beyond us, but I refuse to put labels on it.
See, that's it. It's the labels that are placed.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up. And we do this in the paranormal. We label things without fully knowing everything about a certain entity. Well, Bigfoot's this, Bigfoot's that.
Right.
And it's like, why are we overly classifying something and putting it in a box when we don't really 100% know exactly all of the traits and personalities and origins of this specific entity? Drives me nuts.
Yeah, I think people, it makes people comfortable to put things in boxes, because I think it makes them, instead of just saying, I think it makes people feel crazy to not know. And so they put things in boxes because, if I put it in this box, then this means that I have a handle on it. When all of this stuff we're talking about, we have no handle on. We don't know. And we're talking about the afterlife today, but ultimately, none of us know until we get there.
That's exactly it. I agree.
Yeah, and you write from and talk from your experiences throughout your life and the things that you've learned from communicating with spirits and things like that. And that's where I come from too. Talking about it is my own experiences and things like that. And I think talking about it makes people not feel crazy to believe in it. Other people to hear that, me and you are having an intelligent conversation about this topic, and somebody out there will listen to this and be like, oh, well, I've had that same experience. I'm not crazy. It really happened. And they may not be able to talk to somebody else about it because of the way that people may look at them in their own families.
But it's comforting. Right. No, that's very well said. That's a good observation and very well said. And it's, I'm one of these that is an advocate of a healthy respect for other people's viewpoints and opinions. And there's no need for competition. There's no need for I'm right, you're wrong. None of that. Throw that out the window. It's respect people for their beliefs and their opinions and whatnot. It's not going to hurt you. If you don't agree with them, that's fine. If they don't agree with you, that's fine. But, and we can learn from other people's, even if we don't agree with them or they don't agree with us, we can learn from each other with, varying perspectives and beliefs and whatnot.
Yeah. And also, I think when you come together with those different opinions and beliefs, I think if you're open to them, to changing your mind somewhat and learning from somebody else, you can learn from other people's experiences, especially in the paranormal.
Oh, yes.
It's going to take us all to figure this out from every different viewpoint and perspective. I've been railing about this all season, this season. I'm not going to get off on my tangent, but fuck a bunch of bro culture, bro culture in the paranormal needs to fucking go away.
I know it's an important topic. We need to talk about it all the time because, it's just, yep, it's important. How many times have I said yep in this episode? I swear, like 20? I don't know. I don't know.
I told you, me and you were on the same level. I felt, especially after reading your book, and a lot of what you wrote are things that I've experienced or seen from investigating, researching the paranormal, and it just makes a lot of sense, and it just all clicks into place. And it makes me feel good, like we were talking about, to say, okay, well, I thought that myself from this or that experience. It's just validating to hear it from somebody else, or read one of the stories in your books that isn't from your point of view, but from the person who had the experience. That was one reason we were talking about you putting those stories in there to show what you're talking about. But I think it also helps validate experiences too.
Right. Exactly. And that's why I did that is, it's, and what's interesting is there's stories that back up the different topics and support those different topics. Yeah. And I mean, thank you so much that's a huge compliment. Thank you so much. And, I'm all about teamwork, and, this book wouldn't be what it is without these contributions.
Yeah.
So I'm very indebted to the people that offer to share these. There's some amazing, amazing stories in the book. One of my favorites is The Orange Balloon, and it's William Brower's story. And read that, and it's when he sent me, actually, he was the very first interview I did, and I interviewed him over the phone, and then and what I did is I interviewed a lot of people. The ones that I interviewed, I would interview and then transcribe it, write something, send it to them for approval. There are a few in there that are like Marie D. Jones and Denise Agnew that sent me their stories, but William Brower's is one of my favorites, and he was the first person that I interviewed. I think it was like late 2018 or something like that. I don't know. Yeah. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no. I love books like this, and I think it's also a reference book in a way, because you can go back, especially for me as a researcher, I can go back and say, wait a minute, I read that in Nicole's book. Let me go back and see, exactly what this person's experience was. Does this match mine, or does this match a client of mine or something, and kind of use it as a reference book too.
Right.
But, I think it'd be great in that way as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you so much. And it's one of these books, it's a controversial subject, and I know it's not for everyone. Right. And that my intent is not to, and I even have I have a note to the reader, and I stayed in there. My intent is not to force you to align with my thoughts or the thoughts of the contributors. It's just meant to open your eyes and heart to the possibilities that exist when we pass from the living world into the afterlife. And so that's basically the point about it. Is it's not, I'm not trying to persuade you to like believe in this, but here it is. Take with it what you want, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, and we had talked about recognizing some of the signs, especially some of the ones that are obvious. It's a sign from a loved one, like dreams and things like that, and some synchronicities. But there are other things too that can just be personalized to the person, that something special between you and your loved one, of them reaching out. I know there are a lot of people who finding feathers has significance, or finding coins with certain dates on them and things like that. It can be any little thing like that they're kind of saying, hey, I'm still here.
Yeah, exactly. And it goes back to the synchronicities. And I think synchronicity is a way that energies use to communicate with us. They may not be able to like state exactly verbatim what they're trying to convey, but they use symbolism and synchronicity to convey it to us, and then we have to decode what that is, basically. So
yeah, somebody was telling me one time that they always found pennies with like 1977 or whatever. It was the birth date, the birth year of their loved one that had passed away. And yeah, and every time they found pennies just laying in the parking lot or whatever, they always had this date on them, the same year. And they said the craziest time they ever found one was I believe they were shopping at Walmart, and they were in the aisle at Walmart looking at potato chips or some shit, whatever. And all of a sudden they hear a coin hit the floor, and they're like, "What the hell?"
Just out of
There's
nowhere.
nobody else on the aisle with them. Yeah, out of nowhere, a coin hits the floor.
Out of nowhere. Okay.
Yeah. And there's nobody else on this aisle, and they're like, I doubt somebody was on the other side of the aisle throwing coins over.
Right, exactly.
But the penny that hit the floor right beside them that they heard hit the floor had that same 1977 or whatever.
There you go.
Yeah, how do you discount that?
You can't. That's just it. You can't. The logical mind wants to find answers to it and wants to understand the how and why. And we can't necessarily understand the how and why, but again, we can take it as, wow, I can't dispute this. I don't know exactly how and why this happened, but I can't dispute the message, right? So
yeah. I thought that was a crazy story, and the person was a credible person. I had no reason not to believe them,
right?
Because they were in disbelief themselves that it ever fucking happened, and they're just like, "What do you think about this?" I'm like, "I don't know. You ever heard pennies from heaven?"
Do you know how many times?
That's all I can tell you.
Yeah. Do you know how many times they actually saw or have that happen? Was it like a few times or just a couple or?
Oh no, they talked like it happened all the time.
Oh, see,
like,
my God.
It had happened probably 5, 6, not necessarily pennies falling out of heaven, but they would find random pennies out in public that had this same year on them. And it happened multiple times.
You can't dispute that. It's similar with me so my Helen Lopinto, my grandmother, died around 4:45 a.m. I kind of think it might have been 4:44 maybe. My cat Max passed away in the afternoon. Of course, different dates, different years, at around 4:45 p.m. With me, it's the clock. I will just happen. I'm not even thinking about the time, and I'll happen to glance at a clock wherever I'm at, and I see 4:44 all the time. So wow. I don't know,
Yeah. And I have another dream story that happened to me that was kind of another sign that was a little different than what I talked about before. My cousin, sadly, she succumbed to an overdose from drugs, and the week leading up to her, like 4 or 5 days leading up to her funeral, I was noticing my cabinet doors were open in my kitchen just randomly.
Wow.
And so I was telling my husband, like, quit leaving cabinet doors open. Like, he'd never done that before. It was something out of the ordinary. Neither one of us leave cabinet doors open, right?
Yeah, just that, right? You always close them.
Yeah. Well, my mom would have, whipped my ass when I was younger, leaving the refrigerator cabinet doors open. So we don't leave cabinet doors open. But there's this 4 or 5 day span after my cousin died that the cabinet doors just randomly open, like different ones on different days and different times of the day. And I was constantly, and it was to the point that I went to my husband, like, what the fuck is going on?
Right.
Why are these cabinet doors being open? Like, who's trying to tell me what? And me and him were talking it out, and I was like, it has to be my cousin. It has to be something to do with her. And, I got my answer. The night before her funeral, I had a very, very livid dream, like we were talking about before.
Okay.
Where I got up out of bed, I opened our bedroom door and walked out to my kitchen. And when I did, my cousin was standing at our back door with it open, and she had her right hand on it, and she waved at me with her left hand, walked out the door and shut the door behind her. Oh, after that, no more cabinet doors opening.
There you go. You can't dispute that. There you go. That's a perfect example of this.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. I am so sorry she passed in that way. I hope it was peaceful and hope she is at peace. It sounds like she is, of course. So, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that seemed to be her way of, because I think with being an empath, like we were,
Hmm.
talking about earlier, being a lighthouse, kind of that beacon, I think the loved ones I've had that's passed over, I think have crossed over, I think they understand, oh, okay. Like, even if they didn't know in life that I was an empath, we never had that conversation. I think in death, she knew that I was the one that she could come to and I would understand. I would get the signs and I would know that it wasn't just a dream.
Well said. I agree. They, they know who can sense them. They know who can communicate with them, and they're going to gravitate to
Yeah.
those people. Wow. Amazing story. Amazing.
I've heard lots of other signs too. I've heard people have things happen with computers and people
Yes.
have things happen with cell phones and
Songs,
yeah.
music.
Yeah.
I don't. Do we have time for a quick story here about my grandfather?
We have all the time you want to take. Go right ahead.
All right, so I'm going to share just because it kind of like coincides with this. So, my grandmother's husband, so Andrew F. Lopinto, MD, he was a well-known doctor here in San Diego. So he got Alzheimer's, sadly, and this was a vibrant man. He ice skated, he played the violin, he was a very well-respected doctor, and he ended up getting Alzheimer's. I was 13 at the time, and so the night, I guess, of his passing, I remember going to sleep, but then I woke up in the morning and I sat up in bed, and my mom and I were staying at their house in Kensington, San Diego. And I woke up in bed. Here I am, 13 years old, and I sat up and I said, Grandpa died. So I walked down the stairs, and then I saw my mom and grandma sitting in the kitchen. I knew by the look on their faces. And then they told me, Grandpa passed away. And I was able to go in the room, and he was very peaceful. There was a slight scent of a rose. Sometimes people can smell that when their loved ones pass. He looked peaceful, and I talked with him, and I said how much I love him and all of that. So then fast forward to his funeral, and he was a medical officer in World War II. So we had the full military honors funeral at Greenwood Mortuary here in San Diego. And so, we attend his funeral and all of that, and then we have a gathering after at a Mexican restaurant. Now, here's the kicker: when we came back home to my grandmother's house, to their house, I walked upstairs, and what I'm getting at is the symbolism of it. So don't take this literal; it's the symbolism. So I walked upstairs, and one of the photos on the wall, it was a glass framed picture, and it had Jesus on the cross. When I walked upstairs, that picture was on the floor, broken in a bunch of pieces, and the Jesus figure was completely off the cross. And I took that as a message from my grandfather saying, I am no longer bound by the limitation of Alzheimer's. I'm free and okay now. So that's not here. I was 13, and I really believed in that. I know it may sound weird to people, but it's the symbolism of it. And at 13, I was able to kind of decipher this. So interesting.
I think part of that too just comes from your own intuition of just knowing,
right?
Of your something just telling you this is what it is, and that you have to listen to that. Like, you're not jumping to conclusions. You're just. Mm-hmm. I just know that this is what it is.
This is what it is.
That feels right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like an epiphany. It's like this all. It's hard to put in words, but it's this.
Yeah.
All-knowing sense of this is it. There's no doubt. This is exactly what it is, and it's like for those that are listening, if you've had that experience and you feel it, you know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, and the sad thing is, I think everybody's born empathic and has
I do too.
A good honed intuition. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people are taught out of it by their parents because it scares their parents, or their parents don't know what to tell them, or their parents don't believe in it. And so they're kind of taught to shove that part of themselves aside. And so when they grow up, they lose touch with that part of themselves.
I agree. That's really well said. And I think ego too has a part in it too. People that live through, we need ego. I mean, it's a survival thing as well, but people that live through their ego more than really living, just really getting in touch and knowing their true selves, I think that plays into it as well.
All right, y'all. That's it for this week. Make sure you check out part 2 of this awesome episode with Nicole Strickland. We dive deeper into the afterlife and the Afterlife Chronicles, her new book. So make sure to stay tuned into that. Thank you for listening. Y'all have a good day. Stay safe out there. We'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Unseen Paranormal Podcast. Join us next week for an all-new, amazing guest. And in the meantime, please go on Spotify or Apple and give us a rate and a review. And go over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button. Also, if you would like to submit your story, you can email it to unseenparanormalpodcast@gmail.com. And you can remain anonymous if you like. Once again, thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. Stay safe out there.